Our next topic in Algebra 2 in business is going to be solving quadratic equations by the quadratic formula. So instead of just jumping right into that, I've actually broke it down into a couple parts, and we looked at 3 parts of how to solve using the quadratic formula. Now the other thing is, on SAT you will have questions like this, and this actually will lead into the quadratic formula. So I figured it'd be good to just sort of break down the quadratic formula, look at piece by piece, and then the third lesson will be, all right, here is the finished product. Here's a quadratic equation solved by the quadratic formula. So we started off last week with simplifying radicals. Today what we're going to do is we're going to take stuff where it's already simplified radical, but how do we do composition, adding, subtracting, and dividing for the most part to simplify these expressions even more. So in your packet, you should have 5.1a. Please do these top four problems with us, and then we'll get to the more complex ones, which is going to be more of what you're going to see in a few days on these lessons. But we'll start with some simple ones. So if you have the following expression, 3 plus 6 squared root of 5 over 3, and I said, all right, let's simplify it. Anytime you have a fraction bar, that means you got to simplify, divide both parts by 3. So if I want to do that, and if I break this down, really what this is 3 divided by 3. Keep this symbol, and then 6 divided over square root of 5 divided by 3. Now when you're doing this, you could take 6 divided by 3. It's almost like if I had 6x divided by 3, they have 2 x's. So you can do that. Sometimes these can't always be simplified, but in this case they can. So what I end up getting here, 3 divided by 3 is 1. 6 divided by 3 is 2. So I write 2 square root of 5. Notice, when I divide by 3, it does nothing with this number in the radical. Leave it alone. Okay, as we go into this second example, I'll talk about a common mistake people make when simplifying. Okay. All right, next problem, number 2. So once again, fraction bar means you divide everything by 2. So this is 2 divided by 2. Keep this here. 4 square root of 2 divided by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. Here's what a lot of people want to do. 4 divided by 2 is 2, but they want to divide this by 2 as well, make this square root 1. Do not do that. Okay? Square root of 2 divided by 2 is not 1. You just say, all right, I've got 4 square root 2, half of that would be 2 square root 2. Okay, and that is it. That is your answer. Okay, so we start out with a really basic one. Okay, what I want you to do is go ahead and, if you want, pause the video now. If you think you've got this down, pause the video. Do 3 and 4, then you can check your answers. Or if you want to do one more example, then you can pause it and do example 4. Your choice. All right, so number 3. I want to break this up into 2 parts. Now what makes this different from the top 2 is this symbol here. See how it says a plus or minus? That means I add this and I subtract this. Just keep that there, the plus or minus. So now I have 6 square root of 3 divided by 2. So what I end up getting is 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 divided by 2 is 3. And I have that symbol here. So what that means is this actually is, when you have a plus or minus, you usually take 6 plus 3 square root of 3 and 6 minus 3 square root of 3. And we'll talk more about that as we go to further lessons. But that's what this plus or minus symbol means. It means this actually is 2 expressions. Okay, put a comma between. All right, if you haven't done this already, pause the video, go to problem 4, and then you can check your answer. All right, number 4. Split this up. Once you split it up, you can now simplify both these. Negative divided by negative is positive, so this becomes 1. And then positive divided by negative is negative, so it becomes negative 4 square root of 5. Notice I don't do anything with that. So if I want, I could rewrite this. You don't have to do this part. Now some of you might be like, well, can't you just write this as 1 minus? Yes. And this would be 1 plus because you're subtracting a negative. All right, so that's the simplifying. That's the basic steps. Okay. So I want to show you that before I get to here's the more complex ones. Here's the ones you're going to see on your quiz now. Is the bottom 3. And then I'm going to throw one more because some of you guys like to see that one last example. And if you want to see another example, you can. Otherwise, you can just go right to your homework. So these take a little bit more space, so I'm going to write this in the middle. So negative 5 plus or minus the square root of negative 5 squared minus 4 times 2 times negative 1 all over 2 times 2. All right. So this is a little bit more complex one. This will be example 5 in your packet. So let's go through the steps. First thing you want to do, step 1, is you want to simplify in the radical. So simplify this, and you want to simplify the denominator. Okay, which is the bottom. So here's how you do step 1. This stays here is negative 5. Two times 2 is 4, so I simplified the bottom. And now as I simplify the radical, this will always, no matter if it's a positive or negative, anytime you square something, it becomes a positive. So this will be now sometimes if you enter this in your calculator, if you do this in your calculator, it'll give you negative 25. If you enter your calculator correctly and put parentheses around this, then it gives you 25. 4 times 2 times 1, that would actually be negative 8. So it ends up being 25 plus 8, which would be 33. So as I simplify this now, this becomes negative 5 over 4 plus or minus square root 33 over 4. Now, this cannot be simplified. Square root of 33, let's see if it's simplified at all. 3 times 11, no, nothing to pull out. So that's it. That's all I do. I leave my answer just like this. Remember, if you want, you can split this up and write this plus square root 3, and then, but you don't have to do that. Just leave your answer just like that. Well, let's go on to number 6. Actually, if you want, now might be a good time. Why don't you pause and try number 6 on your own. So really, we just added these 2 steps. Once you simplify into the radical, simplify the denominator, it becomes just like problems 1 through 4. So go ahead and do that one on your own, and then you can pause the video, and then you can come back when we're finished. Okay. So, step 1. I simplify under the radical and in the denominator. Okay, so that's my first step. So this you could, by the way, type it in your calculator. Just type it in. So 6 squared is 36. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 times 2 is 24. So when I do this, I end up getting the following. Negative 6 plus or minus square root of 12 over 6. All right, so last week's lessons, 12 is 2 times 6, 2 times 3. So what I end up getting is negative 6 plus or minus 2 squared root 3 all over 6. Now it comes back to, once again, like examples 1 through 4. Negative 6 divided by 6 plus or minus 2 squared root 3 divided by 6. This can simplify to be negative 1. And this would be square root 3, because I divide top and bottom by 2 over 3. And that's it. That's as simple as you get. Right. Let's go on to 7. And this will be the last example, and then you can get to your homework. Or if you need that one last example, I'll put up example 8 in there as well. Example 7. Step 1, I want to simplify under the radical and the bottom. Okay, so it's something that would be good to do on your calculator. So 4 squared, 16. 4 times negative 2 is negative 8. Negative 8 times 3 would be negative 24. Now, a lot of people would be like, oh, this is a negative number, but if you have 16 minus negative 24, that's 16 plus 24, which is 40. Now, Step 2, we probably should put this in there. So, is you need to simplify the radical. So I need to simplify square root of 40. I did in the last problem, but I probably should write that as a step. That's 2 times 20, 2 times 10, 2 times 5. So see how they have that pair of 2's? And this just from last week's lesson. And then I have a 2 and 5 left over, which would be 10. All right, final step is, now I break this up. Negative 4 divided by negative 4, plus or minus 2 square root of 10 divided by negative 4. So what this ends up being is 1 plus or minus, and this ends up being 1/2. Okay, divide top and bottom by 2, so this becomes 1 over 2. Okay, that's it. All right, that's it. Do not say square root of 5. We never divide that. All right, at this point, if you got this down, hey, go get started with your homework. If not, do number 8. Pause the video, do number 8, and then come back and check your answer. So number 8. All right, step 1. I simplify the denominator and under the radical. 2 times 1 is 2. Over here, I'll do this. I get 16. 4 times 1, that's 8. So I get 8. 16 minus 8 is 8. Step 2. Simplify the radical if it can be simplified. So square root of 8 is 2 times 4. 2 times 2. So I get 6 plus or minus 2 root 2 over 2. If you want next steps, step 3, separate. I'm showing by separate. So this is 6 over 2 plus or minus 2 root 2 over 2. And then step 4 would be to simplify each of the fractions. So 6 divided by 2 is 3, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. I could put 1 square root 2, just leave it like that. That's it. So that's 5.4a. Complete your homework. Go make sure to go get it checked back on the clipboard. If you want, you can then move on to 5.4b, or you can save that for tomorrow.